From Josef Pieper's The Four Cardinal Virtues. Chapter 4. The Three Basic Forms of Justice. When may justice be said to prevail in a nation? For the place of justice is in communal life. In an inquiry concerning the realization of justice, we have to direct our attention to the life of the community, to the family, the industrial organization, to the nation organized as a state. One might almost say that the subject of justice is the, quote, community, unquote, although, of course, it is only the person, and therefore the individual, who can be just in the strict sense of the word. But to repeat our question, when may justice be said to prevail in a community? Plutarch, Diogenes Laertius, Stobaeus have given answers in the form of maxims ascribed to the seven sages. Their replies demonstrate that our question has always been a subject of philosophic speculation. The almost incredible timeliness of their answers proves how very little the passing of time affects this particular field. Thales, of whom Diogenes Laertius reports several very pointed maxims, gives this reply to the question about the strangest thing he had seen in his life. Quote, a tyrant who has grown old, unquote. The statesman Thales says, quote, if there is neither excessive wealth nor immoderate poverty in a nation, then justice may be said to prevail, unquote. Bias, to whom is ascribed a thoughtful saying, also quoted by Thomas, of but three words. Oh, I'm sorry, it's ancient Greek. Mastery reveals the man. Gives this answer, when everyone in the state fears the laws as he would fear a tyrant. Solon replies with a well-aimed remark, justice rules whenever a criminal is accused and judged in the same way by all those he has not injured as he would be by the person to whom he has done some injury. This means that the true character of a criminal wrong is not so much the loss of some possession, the injury to health or life, but rather the implicit threat to the entire order of community life, affecting every member. Once this is recognized by everyone, justice can be said to prevail in that state. A series of noteworthy maxims of the Spartan Kalon have also been handed down to us by Diogenes Laertius. Here's just one example. Three things are surpassingly difficult: keeping a secret, accepting an injustice, making good use of one's leisure. To the question about the just state, Kalon answers that it is realized whenever the citizen habitually pays most attention to the laws and least to the orators. Pittacus, himself a ruler in his own city, Mytilene, touches in his answer upon the forms of government. He says that if not possible for the wicked to rule in a polis, and if it is likewise not possible for the good to be excluded from ruling, then justice is a reality. Anyone can see that these replies are not so much a matter of stating formal definitions, rather of giving some characterization that have been arrived at empirically. That is, of course, precipitate of experience. St. Thomas's answer might have run like this. Justice rules in a community or state whenever the three basic relations, the three fundamental structures of communal life, are dispossessed in their proper order. Firstly, the relations of individuals to one another, ordo partium et partes. Secondly, the relations of the social whole to individuals, ordo totius ad partes. Thirdly, the relations of individuals to the social whole, ordo partium ad totum. If it's ad totum, could you tell me? These three basic relationships correspond to the three basic forms of justice: reciprocal or mutually exchanged justice, justitia commutativa, which orders the relation of individual to individual partner; ministering justice, justitia distributiva, which brings order to the relations between the community as such and the individuals who are its members; legal or general justice, justitia legalis, justitia generalis, which orders the members' relations to the social whole. The hallmark of the three basic forms of justice is some kind of indebtedness, different in character in each case. The obligation to pay the tax collector is different in kind from that of settling my book dealer's account. And the legal protection the state owes the individual is due to me, in principle, in quite a different fashion from that in which my neighbor owes me the return of a loan. Moreover, a different subject is involved in each of these three fundamental forms. To say that commutative justice orders the relations between one individual and another is quite obvious and inadequate formulation. Evidently, it is not justice that orders. It is that the just man. It is man who orders. In the last analysis, it is man, and hence the individual persons, who supports and realizes all three fundamental forms of justice, yet the individual is implicated in three different ways. The individual, as associate of other individuals, sustains commutative justice, whereas the subject of legal justice, to be sure, once again the individual, but now as the associate of the species, as it were, as a member of the community, as a, quote, subject, unquote. So too, the social whole cannot in any concrete sense make distributive justice a reality. Again, it is rather the individual man, if not the king, then the dictator, the chief of state, the civil servant, or even, in a consistent democracy, the individual, insofar as he has a determining role in administering the common good. One is tempted to give a diagram of these structures, though such a sketch would necessarily be not only inexact, but in many details plainly inadequate. Yet, inasmuch as that inescapable inadequacy brings into clear focus the necessity for the corrections in what has already been said, it will not be wasted effort to give some consideration to a diagram. And in trying to determine that inadequacy, the reader will find that he is personally participating in the present discussion. He will find himself drawn into a controversial discussion and compelled to give a clear-cut interpretation of social reality, which means human reality. In what respect, then, is this schema wrong? Thomas would see the inaccuracy above all in that the individual and the social whole are represented as separate, sharply distinguished realities, whereas in actual fact the individual who confronts the social whole is at the same time included in it as a member. Thomas would also insist that in actual fact, individual persons, personae privatae, have a reality, an ontological status of their own, and cannot be simply reduced to the reality of the social whole. The human community, the state, Thomas says, is so constructed that the deeds and works of the individual are not of necessity the deeds and works of the whole, and similarly, a functioning of the whole as such as possible, that it is not identical with the functioning of the individual member. It may be objected that these are abstract speculations, but in order to arrive, for instance, at a sound judgment on the question of collective guilt, we have to go back to this ultimate foundation. There's a bit more to this chapter. I'll stop there. The three basic forms of justice. Without understanding these, you really do not understand the very concept of why our system of laws works the way it does. And this is obviously very normal for people to not understand why there can be rights. You're an individual within the group. What are you talking about, rights? Shouldn't the group just tell you what's right and wrong? No, but you're an individual. Where did you get that idea from? You've always had that idea. You never doubted it. You never thought the idea of collective punishment is normal. If you are complaining about corruption and collective punishment, it is because you're aware collective punishment is wrong. At some point, you have seen that collective punishment is wrong. It is because you have always been treated as an individual. You've always been held responsible for your actions. There's a collapse in our society of this very concept, of the understanding of the three forms of justice, of the fundamental concept of what makes an individual as apart from society. And really, people have completely forgotten that they must have faith in the distributor of justice. Without faith in that distributor of justice, it all falls apart. This has obviously been forgotten because we are seeing the police have to side with a candidate out of complete fear that the other candidate will leave them in the street to be destroyed by mobs of no greater than about 4% of the population at the greatest. 5-6% of the population by sheer number, even if they're all participating. So this would be 1% of the population in the streets protesting. 2% in the streets protesting, ruining everything with the help of all these academics.